Welcome to the Limit Free Life Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. I bring you tips, advice, and guest stories about creating work you love. Whatever type of career or business you have or want, I want to help you find more meaning, money, and happiness. Now we are live from Hollywood. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Limit Free Life Show, airing from the home. So thank you for joining us. We're here every Wednesday at 1 o'clock to talk about careers and business and money. And today I'm thrilled to have a real money expert on our show, somebody who is dealing right now with a lot of clients who are going through a lot of things in the middle of our pandemic. And so I'm very excited to bring to you today Andrea Jenson. And whether you are someone in career transition or a business owner right now, I think what she has to say is going to be really, really helpful and interesting. I'm going to read a little about Andrea, tell you a little bit about what she does, and then I'll introduce her so you can meet her yourself. Andrea Jenson is the founder of the Cashflow CFO, the female entrepreneur's solution to confidently running their business based on facts, not emotions. Jenson's strategic tax and bookkeeping provides virtual bookkeeping support to small business owners. Andrea has had an affinity for numbers from an early age, and prior to opening her firm, ran the finance departments for some of the largest companies in the world. Today, Andrea's goal is simple: to empower women business owners to confidently own their finances and their future. Andrea and her team help their clients implement financial systems and processes that allow for empowered decision-making to help entrepreneurs scale their businesses to the next level. Their modern boutique approach provides well-thought-out practical financial solutions designed to help entrepreneurs run and scale their businesses faster and easier. Andrea is also a wife, mother, soccer player, and passionate volunteer who spends her free time helping kids with cancer thrive and shelter dogs find their forever homes. That's beautiful. Thank you. Welcome, Andrea. So glad you're here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, great. So you are busy right now. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And, it's really a difficult time because it's difficult for obvious reasons for everybody, but it's also difficult to talk about some of these topics because there are people for whom work is the same as it's been or better. And then there are people who have been laid off or furloughed or taken a pay cut. And there are people whose businesses are thriving and people whose businesses are just completely shut down. So, I want to talk a little about all of it and also just express, the compassion that, we all have toward the people who are suffering and worried and anxious right now. And also, give kudos to the people who are making this work one way or another. I've heard amazing pivots going on, amazing things that people are doing, ways that they're really staying positive and finding new opportunities in this. So for everyone, I think the understanding is that everybody's going through their own journey right now with this. And so Andrea, I know you're helping people with this journey in many ways. You've been super generous, and we'll tell people some of the offerings that you have to help them understand some things that are going on right now. But tell us a little about your background that brought you to this place that you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a business degree and accounting background, and right out of college went and did the whole corporate journey and had a great time doing that. I worked for venture capital firms, publicly traded oil and gas companies, had a great, wide range of seeing big businesses and how they run and operate. And, being a fourth generation entrepreneur from a very entrepreneurial based family, I saw there was such a huge disparity between the way big businesses were running their finances and small businesses were running their finances. And after, looking a little bit closer at what was going on, it was clear that there were a lot of women running businesses, and they weren't being taught what they needed to know financial education wise. And a lot of the times when they would reach out for support from their, accountant or CPA, they weren't getting the receptiveness and the patient education that they needed to really be able to flourish in their business.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, having the background that I had and seeing, my parents were small business owners too. And so they didn't run it the way that I knew it should be run. And so it really opened up an opportunity. And I saw that, the market really needs this support. So our services are, done for you all the way from bookkeeping, tax to fractional CFO services. But we have a huge education component in that service offering. So I don't want to just show you what to do. I want you to know and understand why it is. I want you to know how to read your financial statements, and I want you to understand how to manage your cash flow. So it's been really fun. It's been, we have a lot of really, really great clients in all different types of industries. And so, we joke that we get to sprinkle our pixie dust on all of these businesses because, finances is such a key, it affects every component of a business.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And I think, as much as I like to talk about, fulfillment and finding your purpose and all of that, we've almost gone into sort of a survival mode right now where we're back to basics, and money, talking about money is so important, and thinking about money is so important. And money is what's on people's minds right now. More than anything else, I think, is kind of figuring this out so that we can go back to thinking about future plans and our visions and all of that. But we have an immediate need right now to look at our money. So
yeah, absolutely. Whether you're a business owner or an employee, right. Everybody is doing a lot of, gosh, do I need this extra Netflix subscription that I've been paying for how long? And, people are starting to pay attention to, the little things that when things are good, you don't really mind.
Yeah, it really highlights how things were good and things were just moving along. And so a lot of the things that we know we should be doing or taking care of or managing a little better, it's just kind of on the to-do list of, as soon as I get some time, I'll take care of that. And a lot of those financial things, in a lot of ways, I think this is really good for people because it forces us to slow down and pause and think, wow, those things that are on my to-do list, I need to do those now, or at least look at them and plan. So what are you seeing out there with respect to your clients? I mean, what's happening with people and their money, because they're talking very specifically about that to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is all of the conversations right now are around how am I going to manage my cash flow right now? And our clients are really having to get really tight on knowing exactly what is coming in money-wise and when is it going out, and looking at ways, how can we speed up those collections and how can we delay those payments? And that's, we say that all the time in our business, like that's a foundation of cash flow management. But more than ever right now, it's front and center of everybody's what they're doing in their business.
Right.
So that's one thing that we're talking about. And the other is, once you've done that, you're going to identify where are there gaps right now in my cash flow. Mm-hmm. So what are the resources that you can find to help plug those gaps and, get you through the next 30, 60, 90 days until you can have, see what, and right now, because there's so much that's unknown, that's kind of only as far as you can plan to be.
That's right.
Honest.
Yeah. Planning. I know. And all the planning that we did at the beginning of the year, for those of us who have a big strategic business plan, we're all having to be flexible right now and relook at that. It's interesting. So I just want to say that I love that you talk more specifically about cash flow, because that is really the lifeblood of the business, but people focus very much on revenue and expenses and bottom line, and that whole just that focus on cash flow. Because for a lot of us, I think if we'd had our cash flow under control all along, we wouldn't be, for those who are in desperate situations, it would be less so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, we recommend our clients have at least 3 months worth of their overhead expenses tucked away. If you can do more than that, that's great. But that's a good rule of thumb, as a minimum that you want to have. And so for those, it's kind of twofold. For those that don't have that, and unfortunately they're kind of getting caught, in predicaments that are not fun to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But this does, like you mentioned earlier, it provides a great opportunity to kind of reset and go back to the basics of, we've had such a good economy for so long that I don't think people, like the whole 2000, all the stuff that happened with the mortgage stuff is far enough in our, it's
Right.
far enough in everyone's memory that it wasn't like, oh, I need to be really diligent about this.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a great opportunity for businesses to get back to the basics and make sure that, they're managing their cash flow and being conservative with it.
Right.
Which will also set them up for times like now, where there are some programs that the government is providing. I have clients that are already getting approved for a lot of these loans, and it's because they were able to just, oh, I have everything completely organized and ready to go. And they, it was the easy breezy application process. Their credit was in good standings. They already had an established relationship with a banker.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a very easy process. So there's a lot to pick up from that too.
Yeah, and I want to definitely get, because I know you know all the details of these programs, and I want to get into that. But I want to just step back a minute to what you were saying about having 3 months of savings in reserve. I want to just ask. I'm sure you hear this from clients, and the obvious question that I think would come up with for people is, I'm already, running so tight. How can I possibly find that money to put into reserve? Which I think is a lot of the reason that people don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you tell them when they tell you they can't do that?
Yeah, so that opens up the analysis of your business model. So you should be able to do that if your pricing is correct, if your spending is in alignment with how much you're bringing in. You should be able to be putting money aside every month.
Okay.
So if you're not, then that's where you can, take a step back and look and see, okay, well, maybe I need to increase my pricing or look at ways I can do things, for a less, a cheaper way, or, there's all kinds of ways to analyze that. But I think that would be the first thing I would do.
Yeah, very interesting, because a lot of businesses will go for a very long time living like that. Basically, everything that comes in during the month, it goes out by the end of the month. And money. If you're looking at your numbers, those numbers tell a story, and a lot of us kind of ignore that story. We're just busy trying to get into the next month and earn again so that we can pay it all out before the end of the month. And so I think that is such a great thing to just recognize and just take a minute to think, okay, there's a message there. There's actually a message that their business model isn't necessarily working.
Mm-hmm.
And a hard thing to, kind of face up to, but so important. And if it allows you to get that savings in place, then it's well worth it. So thank you. I think it's very interesting how we can get kind of stuck in that mindset of, I just can't do it. And then you almost stop coming up with ideas for that. And that's where you can come in and help people see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the saying that sales cures everything. And to an extent, it's a huge component of your cash flow. But if the money is going in or going out as fast as it's coming in, then there's something else. You've got leaks in your business, and you need to plug those money leaks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into some of the government programs. And I'd love for you to share with people, you've been extremely generous using your time and your expertise to offer free webinars for people on how to, navigate all of what's going on right now in terms of the funding. So go ahead and let us, tell us what you're doing that they might be able to take part in. And then also just maybe a rundown of what's out there for people.
Sure. So we have been doing free webinars every day this week. And as long as people keep signing up, we'll probably just keep doing it, because the other side of that is that the Treasury Department keeps issuing different interpretations as they're rolling out these programs, because there's so many different businesses that are able to apply for them. And the lending stipulations, if you will, are a little different for each type of business formation you have. So it's been really interesting to see on such a large scale how they're taking all of this funding and trying to, as quickly as possible, get it into the hands of business owners that need that cash injection into their business to keep their doors open.
Right.
So that part has been, very interesting, and I'm sure it will be studied for years and years to come, as far as, how they had to pivot too, because the SBA, if you would have applied for one of these loans 3 weeks ago when it first came out, it was this very tedious, long form that you filled out, and then you had to scan it and upload it and send it off. And over the weekend, 2 weeks ago, they shut the site down, completely revamped it. And now it's about a 10-minute application and it's all online. So,
wow. Is that for which particular loan?
Yeah, that's for the EIDL loan. So that's directly through the SBA. And you can find out more information about that at sba.gov. And you can apply directly for that loan on that website. So that's just an example of having to quickly, be able to administer that to such a high volume. So there's 2 loans that are currently available for small businesses. And I'm going to give just a very high level overview of them. And I'm happy to, share more details on any of my webinars, or you can always email me. I'm available to help any of the small businesses that need access to this cash. But so there's 2 loans right now. There's the EIDL loan through the SBA directly. And then there's the PPP loan, which is the Paycheck Protection Program. And that's being offered through SBA approved lenders. So the banks are administering those loans. And they're both intended for to help relieve the cash flow burden that businesses are faced right now if they're shut down, if they're, a lot of this is, their businesses they have to close their doors. So they don't have an online way of generating revenue. It's a brick and mortar retail. So the 2 loans are different in the way of the Paycheck Protection Program, as its name indicates, is intended for employers to keep their employees employed and not have to furlough or lay them off. So if you use that loan for that purpose, up to 75% of what you are able to borrow, you can have it completely forgiven. And so the other 25%, they're saying if you use it for rent, utilities, or mortgage interest, they'll also forgive that amount too. Right. So it's a great opportunity for business owners to not have to go into the hole and go into debt, right, to be able to keep things moving. Right. So that's fantastic. And there's a special calculation that you'll do to determine how much you're eligible for, but it's available to all different types of business entities. So that's one of the loans. And then the other loan is the EIDL loan. And that one is more traditional in the sense of like an SBA loan. So it's got a long term, it's a 30-year term. It's got a really low interest rate, 3.75%. And you can use it for accounts payable, payroll. You just can't, if you get both, you can't use them for the same purpose, but you can get both. So,
I wasn't clear on that. I thought it was a choose one kind of thing. So
yeah, it's gone back and forth several times. Okay. And so the latest, and I'll say that with a caveat, the latest is you can, if you got the EIDL loan prior to April 3rd, they do want you to roll it up into the Paycheck Protection Program, but I don't think anyone was funded that early anyhow.
Yeah.
So, so that's the gist of it. They're great opportunities for business owners to get cash, into their business operations so that they can keep their employees employed and keep their doors open, and hopefully be able to weather this storm so that when this is over and, we're able to be out and about and the economy picks up again, they can go back to, business as whatever the new normal will be. It's yet to be seen, but.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That was a great summary. I just wanted to ask a couple questions. So the EIDL loan, is that there was talk about the $10,000 advance that went along with that. Is that still a thing?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So part of the EIDL loan is you can get an advance up to $10,000, and that piece is forgivable. There's not too much as far as like documentation wise. So the Paycheck Protection Loan, they're very cut and dry. Like you have to, show this to get it forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
Where the EIDL loan, they haven't really said so much about what you'll have to submit for documentation.
Okay.
But the first 10,000 of that loan is being called a grant. So a grant means you don't have to pay it back.
Right. Okay. So there's one that has a grant attached. That's the loan. And then the payroll protection loan, that one is basically can be turned into a grant depending on how you use the funds.
Correct. And then also to note for the Paycheck Protection loan, if you don't use it for those 4 categories of spending that they intended it for, it turns into a 1% loan for 2 years. So it's still not a bad, if you do something else to keep your business going, it's still great terms.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And so your webinars get into more detail for people who are,
Yeah, there's a lot more detail. This is, just a very high level, letting people know that they're available. But there's, it's still a loan that you're taking out from the SBA, and the government's backing it. So you still have to go through underwriting and all that fun stuff.
Right. Yeah. So what is the timing? I've been really curious about that. I haven't, somebody said on a call the other day that they had a friend who'd already gotten their money for the payroll protection, but I haven't heard that. My bank anyway has been saying that they really just got their instructions on how to do this. And they're just allowing people to come in and, apply.
Yeah. So I know of businesses that we've submitted earlier this week that are being approved, but not funded yet.
Okay.
For the EIDL, we are having businesses that are getting notification from the SBA that they've been approved, but no funding yet. So hopefully, that's not too far behind, and we can get that money moving quickly. So
do you know what's involved in being approved? I mean, outside of just fulfilling some of the requirements, like less than 500 people and things like that, but how are they deciding who is getting these loans?
Sure. So they are looking at your credit score. So the 2 different loans, the Paycheck Protection Program loan, if you can substantiate your numbers, you've got you filed your payroll tax returns, and you've got the backup stuff. I think and one other caveat there is that a lot of these businesses that are already getting approved have an existing lending relationship with the bank.
Okay.
So that might be also one of the reasons that they're one of the first ones to be approved, because it was a much easier decision because they're already established relationship with that banker. So, so that's another tip right there for business owners, is that you should definitely have a small business banker that you have a relationship with, that knows you, knows your business, knows your history. You have a line of credit with them, even if it's really small, it's something. And times like this, it really comes in handy.
Yeah, that's another one of those things to prepare, like the reserves, is having those relationships. So, and I know you make recommendations about the relationships every business should have. So do you want to go ahead and elaborate on that?
Sure. Yeah. So every business should have, your tax preparer, CPA. If you are over $1 million in revenue, you should have a CFO, whether that's, like my company, we support businesses. We're not full-time CFOs for them. We're able to provide our services at a fraction of the cost, because you only get what you need. So you don't have to, because if you were to hire a CFO, you're looking at $150,000 a year plus. So we're able to come in and provide the level of service that is going to help them grow and strategically manage their cash flow and all that fun stuff that goes into scaling a business. So you'll want to have your financial team, also your banker is a part of that, and your insurance agent, because there's so many protections that need to be in place that your insurance agent can guide you and give you advice on and things like that. So having that core team is really going to help you, especially in times like this, be able to weather the storm and get all the information you need to make educated decisions about your business.
Right, right. I found even we use paychecks for my husband's business, and it was really great to just be able to call my rep and ask for the payroll reports, and they were in my inbox in a minute. So it is very good to have all of those folks lined up so you can get what you need when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And so, well, let's get back into just money in general and cash flow in general, and knowing that, we will get on the other side of this. And like you said, we don't really know what that's going to look like. But we want to be ready anyway, and ready for whatever. I guess that's our new motto. So what would you just advise businesses? Perhaps it's the same advice you would have given them before that they will need later, but just some things now that we're in the mode where we can think about how to prepare for the future and what we might do differently. What would you advise folks to do in the next go round?
Yeah. So, once we get out of this, where it's kind of triage, we're just stopping the cash bleeding as much as possible. And we're able to, take a deep breath and be strategic about our plans moving forward. I think what a lot of business owners are realizing is their labor costs. Because that's usually a business, that's one of their biggest expenses. And so getting really clear on, if you're a service business, for example, looking at what's your staff utilization and making sure that you're properly, staffed for your volume of business that you need to service. And so by looking at, the revenue coming in and how is that being allocated within the business? So we talked about staffing, but there's also your overhead, there's your marketing, there's your just your general, how to deliver the product or service that you have. So there's a lot of expenses that you should be looking at, and you want to set a budget based on what you are forecasting your revenue to be, so that when the money does come in, if your revenue is lower than what you thought, then those expenses should also, correspondingly be lower. And a lot of business owners don't make that correlation fast enough, and it eats up their cash. So knowing what are my fixed costs, that no matter whether I have a client or not, I have to cover these expenses. Okay, that money is set aside. And then what are my variables that would be nice to have, but I'll only do that when I have enough built up to be able to afford that.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, it really takes knowing your numbers. And when you work with people, I know I always feel really good when I sit down with my accountant. I mean, you don't necessarily want to, but after you do, it's such a relief to know, even if the news is bad, more, and then you can actually take action. So I just really like that process. And I think it's so important to meet regularly with someone like you. And I think most of us don't do it. Most people, they pull everything together and they meet with somebody around tax time and maybe one tax planning meeting. But what would you recommend for things to really move forward?
So if you're an experienced business owner, then you'll know monthly is what you need to do, because you're using those financial statements to make decisions about the future of the business. If you're just learning and you have a small business, quarterly at a very minimum to meet with your whoever your financial person is, whether that's your bookkeeper, your tax person, if they are kind enough to do the advisory side of it too. But really looking at your financial statements and learning how to read, because it's telling you a story. It's telling you a story about your business, and it's making all of those decisions that you have to make every day. It makes it really easy if you know the story of the business, and you can see the trends, and you can see what you have extra that you can invest in a new marketing campaign that's fun and exciting. So really know how to read your profit and loss statement, and know what key indicators you need to be paying attention to, so that you can keep your thumb on the pulse of the business and be able to quickly shift or pivot if you're identifying like things are moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah. And for people who don't know what the key indicators are, what are you specifically referring to?
So it's different for each industry, but you could just generally look at how much am I spending on labor in relation to my sales? How much am I spending on overhead? How much am I spending on marketing? How much is my profit bucket? Because your profit also needs to be allocated. You're putting money aside for taxes. You might want to be reinvesting in the business, or you're paying down debt. Mm-hmm. So a lot of business owners, they look at their P&L and they say, oh gosh, I have money. I made money. And then they go look at their bank account and they're like, but there's no money. What's the disconnect? And it's looking at, just because on your P&L, it shows you are profitable. Maybe you're paying, debt down. Well, that doesn't show up on your P&L. Or, you're taking out draws as the business owner. So you're reducing your cash in the business. So there's a lot of things that you need to look at, all of the financial statements, the income statement, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows, to see how the money is moving into the company, what's happening while it's in there, and how it's going out. So.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because I don't think people typically they look at the profit and loss, but they don't look at the others that closely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is really important. So if your accountant or whoever you're dealing with does not go over those other reports, you should probably ask them to.
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorite clients, she always gets her financial statements and she goes, so why does this matter to me?
Yeah.
So we go through that whole exercise.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it is really important. And I think I like the way you're so interactive with your clients, because, again, a lot of times if the client doesn't initiate the conversation, then the work is just being done behind the scenes. You don't know any more than you did before. I mean, somebody's doing it for you, but it's not informing you in any way. It's just getting done for you. And you don't even know if it's correct. So, which is another issue, where people just accept what they're given and don't really look at the details of the numbers. So.
Yeah, that's true. We base our service, we call it a concierge type service, because we're in your inbox every week, whether you like it or not. Every Friday we send a check-in email just saying, if we have questions on the account, we'll ask it then. But if we don't, we still say, hey, everything looks great. Have a good weekend. What that does is it keeps us as part of your team, and it keeps us front of mind to that business owner. So if by chance they go, oh, I forgot I spent cash at Office Depot and I need to send her that receipt, that's a tax saving right there. Right. But if it's a cash receipt, there's no paper trail for us to see. So we know about it. So we have our ways of making sure that, we're still front and center, and we really do partner with the businesses. And I think that's what's missing out of traditional accounting firms, is they're of the mindset that, we want to be in the background, and we don't want to, be a bother, if you will. Right. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it, because the financial division of your company, whether you're big or small, should be part of your team and your everyday decision making and things like that. And I will say too, we talk to our clients a lot about our different levels of service. So we have the bookkeeping and tax, and we have the CFO. And so we tell our clients, okay, think of it this way. Your bookkeeper is looking out the rear view window of your car. They're telling you where you went and what you did and how much you spent. And your CFO is sitting in the front seat next to you, the business owner, looking out the front windshield of the car, telling you, here's what's coming up, here's how we plan for it, and here's how we prepare. So you need all of those in your business, but they serve a totally different purpose.
Oh, I love that. I love that analogy. And it's so important. And oh my gosh, businesses would be, they'd be so much better off if someone like you were reaching out to them every week. I mean, that's a real luxury, I think. I haven't seen too much of that happening with the accountants that I know. So, and because if nothing else, it jogs your mind. Okay, money in my business. What actually did happen this week, and what is coming up? And And we can go many weeks, sometimes months, without really tuning in to the finances in our business because we're busy working or we're busy
Absolutely.
focusing on our clients. And yeah, that's a huge help. Yeah, I love that. So we're getting close to our time. Any parting words in this really kind of turbulent time for people? I know, if even related to the panic some people are feeling or the worry,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say?
Yeah, I would say get really clear on your cash flow. So, a lot of our worry is because we're unsure of things. So, here's a way to get control back. It might not be pretty when you do it, but it's going to give you clarity of what's the next step I need to do to ease what's going on right now. So,
Right.
get really clear on what's coming in, what's going out, and when, and what do you need to do to plug any gaps that you have in between there. There's all kinds of grants out there if you just look, and there's loans available to businesses. So there's there's help. So it's
Mhm.
not a doom and gloom complete situation, but and it's also a time for business owners to kind of go back to basics and revisit what they're spending their money on and make sure that they're setting the foundation to move away from this in the best way possible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. This has been really a great conversation, and you offer such a great service. I will post information about your webinars on my Facebook page, Limit Free Life Facebook page, and wherever else I put this recording, I will also put that information. And thank you so much for doing that. That is such a
Yeah, you're
gift
welcome.
for people, because it isn't as bad as people might imagine. They have made it simpler than it normally would be. And if they
Yes.
can have a webinar like yours to walk people through just kind of what you need to get together and how you need to think about it, it should be not too daunting.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got, reach out to your financial team, then have them help you file the applications and prepare all the documents so that it's not so overwhelming to you.
Right.
Um, and we can help with that too if business owners need it. So
Yes. So please tell us how people can get a hold of you
sure.
and your
So,
company.
if you are interested in finding out more details of the loans, attending one of our webinars, or having us help support you with that application process, you can email hello at the Cash Flow CFO, and we will get back to you right away and get you on the calendar. Our team is just working around the clock right now to support all the business owners, and it's near and dear to our heart to make sure that businesses don't close during this time, and everyone's able to get through this. So
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time too, where people will see the gaps in their accounting services that they're currently receiving, because
mm-hmm.
if they aren't getting the answers they need or the information they need right now, that'll be telling as well. So,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's a good time for people to really tune in and make some decisions. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much,
You're
and I
welcome.
really appreciate you being here. And stay well,
Thank you.
and continue to be of great service to your clients. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.